Okay, I can face you instead of looking at my profile. Right, so if you want to ask me a question about anything, except my weight, then the people going around with microphones and you can speak or forever hold your peace.
Do we have to put his hand up?
Hand on what?
Hello.
Alright. I can see it.
I did have a whole bunch of questions prepared, but you've answered most of them, or somebody in the bar earlier answered them.
I've tried to.
Yeah, but one little interesting snippet. First of all, as far as I know, I've only ever been to one gig you put on. I'm not from around here. I came here in 1980 to go to Futurama 2. Absolutely changed my life, transformative for me. And I'm here just on the back of that. I've noticed on a couple of the flyers at the bottom, there are little ads for Don't Miss Futurama 2 with Susie and the Banshees, the Psychedelic Birds.
Yeah.
And Bill Nelson was mentioned. He
Yeah.
definitely didn't play.
Yeah, there's a few like that. I had a few people bought like Magazine, Bill Nelson, The Cure, for different festivals. But as it gets nearer the date, they pull out, bands pull out. Because when you're dealing with like 20 bands each day, some of them just find an excuse or they find a reason why they can't do it. But yeah, it wasn't anything to do with the money or whatever else, it was just, it happens, it's like, I'm sorry about that, but it's like I was waiting for that one. I'll tell you the worst one was, I had Orchestral Manoeuvres booked into Tiffany's, and they had this big production with them, camouflage and everything, and it wouldn't go in, the scenery stuff wouldn't go into Tiffany's, and so they refused to do it and asked me to book the Queen's Hall, so I booked the Queen's Hall for them, and had to set a stage up, and it was all there, all in all its glory. And on the day that we were playing, it snowed. It's like in Britain, the first day of snow, everything falls apart, even if it's only like an inch high. And I'd put my phone number on the publicity. And so for days after, I had people ringing in saying that they couldn't make it because of the snow, can they have the money back? Well, for weeks later, I finally said, well, if you've got your ticket, you can use it for any of my other gigs at Tiffany's and you get in. So I got quite a few back from that. But, it wasn't my fault that it snowed. 2,000 people made it, but maybe the people who live on the hills couldn't get out of their cottages or wherever it was they lived. But yeah, that was kind of a nightmare. It actually covered itself, moving it, but it was one of those, sometimes the promoter can't control everything, can't control what's happening. I hate, one of the things I do hate is cancelling the gig for whatever reason, and I've quite often kept gigs in, even though I know I'm going to lose money, simply to keep the faith, nobody believes this, but I've never been into this for the money. I'm into it because I enjoy doing it. Because it's what I'm 76 now, and it's like I'm still doing it because I want to. Because if you say, "Oh, why haven't you tried? Why haven't you done it?" Well, as long as I can walk and whatever, I'll keep putting gigs on, and it's what I've done for a very long time, and it's what I enjoy doing, and the money comes secondary. I don't mind breaking even. I don't mind not making money. Sometimes we lose money, but the way I look at it is that if you get 5 out of 10 gigs right, you've broken even. If you get 6 out of 10 gigs right, you make money. So, you know, I just keep on going. I'm not a millionaire or anything. I've never really wanted to be. I'm quite happy with and content with my life at the moment. And all my kids are grown up, you know, 2 sons, 2 daughters, 6 grandkids. And I'm just happy to keep plodding along the way that I've always done. Any more questions? Is that it? Can I go? All right.
Thank you very much for introducing me to the hamsters, first of all. So I first saw the Duchess, and then I followed them for the 23 of the 25 years on the road, so thanks very much, cost me a fortune. I can't tell you how many gigs I actually went to see them at, but it's a hell of a lot. I also saw Rory Gallagher for the first time at, I think it was at the Polytechnic, and then again I must have seen him about half a dozen times. So thanks for that. And also the Cinnaboy, who I saw, I think they were the last band who played at the new Rossley, if I'm right.
One of the last bands.
Yeah, one of them. And I actually hired them for my retirement party. So thanks very much.
No, the great band. I don't think they're still going now.
No, they're disbanded now.
Yeah.
COVID did for them like a lot of bands.
But I'll get a plug in here. I have got Band of Friends, which is Rory Gallagher's band. You know, Brendan and Jerry, the drummer and bass player.
I did speak to Jerry.
And they're playing the Brudenell. I think it's 1st of August. So
I've seen them there a few times.
Tickets are going well. Just make sure.
Get plugged in now. I did actually speak to Jerry, and Jerry said that quite a lot of the concerts, if they didn't all have 5 cans of special blue each, Rory wouldn't go on.
Yeah, it was a monster for drinking, but it got to him. It's like, you know, I used to say, you know, I put Johnny Thunders up one, and travelling on the train, his injection arm and giving up on him or whatever, you know, he couldn't use his arm. And it was like a wreck, and one of the veins, I think McVeigh had to step in and take over, and you know, and as kids were going out, I said, remember kids, don't do drugs. You know, it's like, because it is, you know, some people think it's great, oh, we get all this high, they want to get a bit more, but they don't realise they're going to get old, or they're going to die, or they're going to get old, and if they get old, they'll all start falling apart. So, you know, that's always been advice, don't do drugs.
Yeah, I used to go to the Fort Green every Sunday to watch the band. And I remember Roy Wood of Wizard famously sitting at the bar, drank a whole bottle of vodka, and then went on the stage and sang fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a lot of them do that, but what I kind of object to, I think, thinking back, I'd put a lot of these young bands starting off, and riders weren't big to begin with. Sometimes if you had a good night, you just buy the band a drink. And but what happened, riders on contract, they started getting bigger and bigger. And you get a young band, you know, not even in their 20s, and they'd come in and they'd have a rider like, you know, 2 crates of beer, a bottle of Jack Daniels, and you know, whatever. And inevitably, you'd find that one of them had gone for the Jack Daniels and had been totally pissed at annoying people all night. But, you know, when I think back to it, I think the record companies, the managers, they're asking promoters to provide all this drink for these young bands and who wouldn't have been drinkers, and they're going there and they're going on the road every night and they're getting free drinks and no wonder a lot of them become alcoholics. No wonder a lot of them need beer or spirits to get their mojo working, whatever else. And you know, I'm not a big fan of riders, mainly because it costs me money. But yeah.
Thank you.
Do you ever go to gigs yourself, John? What's not to do with you? I think so. All last one you ever prepared to go to.
like a busman's holiday. Yeah. No, I do, but I always feel like I should be doing something. You know what I mean? It's like I should be handing out flyers here, or I should be doing the lights. I should be, I always want to be doing something. So I'm not a very good audience person. I like to be round the back and see it from the back, and it's probably because I'm always at the back why I've reached this age and I'm not deaf yet. I've had a few sound engineers who've gone deaf. There's like Deaf Jeff. He at the Duchess. Yeah, Jeff Bell. He used to put some of the bands up so loud and say, Jeff, it's painful. But he'd take it down. Oh, they love it. I said, no, I'm at the door and it's hurting me. It's like, but you've got to realise we all get old. We're all getting old, and if there's any young people in, I don't think there's any. But basically, it's like just pace yourself. Just everything in moderation. Just keep it like that. It's like a car. If you look after it, it'll last for years, and you race it everywhere and go over the bumps and all that.
So you've never paid to go to a gig?
Yeah, I do feel like a knackered old jalopy sometimes. And any more impertinent questions?
I've got one, yeah. First of all, I saw Stuart Copeland in here in October.
Yeah.
And the story that you were talking about Sting in the Aerials, sleeping in the Aerials guest house, you heard it, so that was fantastic.
Yeah.
But my question is, what's the busiest you've ever seen the Duchess of York? What gig was the busiest you've ever seen the Duchess of York?
Busiest?
And bearing in mind, I'm a former trade unionist, so I will always challenge you back.
Yeah. Well, the filing was 300, but sometimes it was 500. I think the second Oasis gig was very busy. Green Day was very busy, which wasn't my gig, that was Flaming Hand, but people were trying to climb through the windows for that one. There were some that would ride was surprisingly busy, but normally, it paced. It normally was just comfortable enough, and as I say, those are the busiest ones that I can remember right now. But so thinking about Mike Peters, The Alarm. I remember annoyingly when he was playing, somebody thought it was a bit of a laugh to set the alarm off, so we had to get the fire alarm off, so we had to get everybody out of the alarm. Mike Peters on the alarm. Yeah, we get the joke, everybody had to go out and come back in again. But it was a good gig, just talking about numbers and that.
I was challenged back to that, is that alright?
Yeah.
I think the Paris Angels in 1990.
Oh yeah, that was horrible.
I've never seen it so busy, and I was around town all the time. I was going to do this all the time on my cat homes, because I had to pick up the vibe. But I think the Paris Angels, that was the busiest I've ever seen. That's just my opinion.
Well, it was, but it wasn't the busiest. It was busy, but there were horrible people. The worst, they were like Mancunian, the worst time, but they were acting Mancunian. But what happened was I gave them a dressing room at the top of the Duchess, and it had all duvets in for some of the bands who wanted to stay, and it had my little lad used to play up there. And he had all these Dungeons and Dragons figures that he painted like top of the wardrobe. So I gave him that room, and I found that when they were going, they'd thrown the duvets and somebody had taken the Dungeons and Dragons thing, and they'd left the shower and the bath running, so the water was spilling over. But not only that, they were like aggravating from the start. They brought these two dreadlock guys and say, oh, these are our bouncers. And a fight started, and they were stood there, and they didn't do anything. They said, I thought it was supposed to be bouncers. So I had to grab them and throw them out. And it was quite funny, because I took both of them, and they're like fighting each other, to the door, chucked them out, and they're fighting each other all across the street, right, down the head road. So I thought, why come to a gig and have a fight? It's like, you pay your money, you don't want to be fighting. But that's the thing, in all these years, very little trouble, you know. So we used to have a bit of aggravation from the Blue Angels when they were as prospects, which are like the young ones wanted to join, and so they were given a challenge like go down the Duchess and set fire to somebody's hair or something like that, something like that. But that was very infrequent. But you know, the majority, I'd say 90%, even 95% of the gigs all went down really well. The thing is, when gigs are free, that's when you get trouble, because you get people wandering in who aren't into the music. They're not into the band or on the stage, so they just say music in the background, and then they're bored and they want to start some. So you know, when people pay money to see a band, not only does the money pay for the band to be on tour, but it also stops troublemakers going in. Nobody's going to give away £5 and whatever and want to have a fight afterwards. They just they don't do it, and that's why all these years, you know, very, very little trouble, and nobody's died on my watch. I remember Sid, I think he's still in somewhere, down at the fan club, F club. He came to me and they were experimenting with all this thing, and he got a glass, and he was doing that with his arm, and his whole arm opened up to the bone. Oh, bloody hell. And came to the door, and I said, what have you done? Oh, I was just trying to scratch myself with that. And I think he had about 60 stitches or whatever to tighten it all up.
It was Jenny that did it.
Yeah. But you said it was you with the glass there. How many stitches?
I can't remember, inside and out though.
Yeah, no, a lot of stitches to it, yeah. But he's still alive. He's still alive. But it was the goriest thing I've seen down at a gig. You know, an arm opened up.
Johnny Plum wrapped his t-shirt on my arm. Black t-shirt just went there.
Yeah, the were good old days. It was a great character. I forgot to mention earlier Ronnie McRae. He was a real character. He was like a little in. Always started trouble here and there, but he loved it. You had to let him off with it because he was so charming. He was, you know, he got sense to the Nick who knew he was heading that way, and then he came out, totally turned his life around, and he coaches young offenders. He teaches them, coaches them, mentors them, does the whole lot. You know, does it. So it shows people. Some people are not the same as they were when they were young. They realise what they've got to do with their life.
Ronnie was that protector.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Girls, we used to get a lot of adverts.
Yeah.
Things on protector.
Yeah, well, I can see why people wouldn't want to start with Ronnie. He wasn't that big, but they could tell he was mad. He was like, bloody, what's he going to do next? But yeah, I remember all that, those early days fondly. We had a good little crowd together. It's not the same these days, but nothing ever is. It's in the cloudy distance of remembrance, or whatever poetic words describe it.
Sorry if I missed it, but why did the Duchess close?
It closed because I think there's undercurrent stories, but I don't know what I should tell. But it was basically Fibbers had the lease at the time, and it was beneficial to them to close the Duchess. And so the lease went, and property developers. Everybody blames Hugo Boss. It wasn't. It was like property developers bought it. They gutted the inside and they made it initially into 2 shops. And Hugo Boss bought it and just converted it into that one big frontage. All the stuff that was the Dutch, all the inside was just fell down into the cellar. So there's no cellar there now. It just concreted over all the inside bodywork of the Duchess is there.
And out of all the venues that you've been involved with, which one did you get most attached to?
Well, nowadays there's 2 favourite venues, the Irish Centre, and it's perfect because it's on 2 tiers. It holds about 800 people comfortably. It's got a big stage. It's got 2 good dressing rooms at the back and showers. That's always a pleasure to do. And the Bruno, of course. The Bruno has now got everything that bands need, and it's a great venue. It's a great asset to Leeds. And those are the 2 venues that I enjoy doing. But I used to like the Fort Green. The Fort Green was a really good venue. And the last gig I did there was at Wangford. And Tetley's in their wisdom decided to close it down and run it as a pool hall. Now within 6 months it was on the front cover after we stopped the gigs of the Evening Post of loads of lads being arrested at the Fort Green because there's loads of drug dealing going on. And it's quite a funny sting because there was a removal firm opposite the Fort Green, big removal vans, and all the cops turned up in one of their removal vans. I forget the name of the firm, and a removal van full of cops. And so it kind of turned around in the car park of the Fort Green as they normally do, the removal vans normally do. And then it stopped, back doors open, all these police came out, went in and caught everybody red-handed, and there's all these pictures of the Evening Post and pulling people out of there. But yeah, that's because Tetley stopped it being a venue. And then they tried to revive it as a venue a few years later, but it didn't quite take off. But it was a good little venue, and before I started promoting, I saw some really good bands there. You know, like I used to go and see Bebop Deluxe and Wally, if you remember them, and Gigafo, which is Charlie Speed's band, and Smokey, they were called Kindness then. They stood out. You know, it was one of my favourite venues, yeah, in Leeds. It's funny that when I first came to Leeds, as I said earlier, there weren't that many venues in the city centre, but one of the most popular and bigger venues in the area was Batley Variety Club. And everybody, you know, it's out, you know, Dewsbury, Batley, out that way south of Leeds. You know, it's about 20 minutes, half an hour away in the car. And people used to go in droves from Leeds. And it was, even in Batley, it was like outside. But it'd be full, you know, people with Shirley Bassey, Bee Gees, all that were playing there. The Drifters, I saw the Drifters there, Lulu, and you know, lots of good names, you know, played there. When James Corrigan had it, and then it changed to the Frontier, and it's like it went down a bit downhill. Yeah.
John, I think you told me you promoted a gig with David Icke once.
Yeah.
And there was a good story, but I can't remember it.
Well, it wasn't, you know, it was, you know, I promoted it. I didn't know what to expect fully. I knew he like had all these theories and things. And, you know, I was at the back. And he was a good speaker, a better speaker than me. You know, and he managed to sort of make everything flow. And it was getting really interested about how the world is run, the Bilderberg group and all this. And I was dying for a pee. And I just didn't want to go for a pee because I wanted to listen to him. He's a really charismatic speaker, very clear, concise. But the thing, his trick is that he says everything as though they're a fact. And when I put him on, he didn't go into it. He did a bit of his alien bit about like radio waves coming from space in our head, but not that many. But I thought, yeah, it was really, and a lot of it made sense, you know, like, you know, the authorities create a problem and they give you a solution which is far greater than the problem, to, you know, to suit them, you know, like the hippies going to Stonehenge, and then they managed to get a law passed to stop unlawful gatherings, things like that. And a lot of it made sense. I thought, yeah. So when he came on again, I didn't promote him the second time. I think they booked it themselves. And he started talking. Then he started talking about Edward Heath and the royal family being shape-changing lizards. I thought, no, I can't buy into that. No, I just can't buy into that one. So yeah, I find him interesting every now and then and dip in and see what he's saying. He comes up with I think he gets them for all his conspiracies. But it just annoys me, you see him talking, and he talks about everything as though it's a fact. You know, he's like, emphasises it, but they're not facts.
What was his rider, Joe? Every night, what was his rider?
Beetlejuice. He was a nice guy. I chatted to him for a while. He had kind of like a blue shabby blazer type thing, and he was all right. There was a bit of shabbiness about him, and but I can't fault him on his on his delivery and the way that he caught people, put people under his spell. A bit like somebody else, some orange troll that we know. Some people are gifted. All it takes is one man, isn't it? One man comes up with something and people follow them. And why? You know, these people are obviously a bit nutty, a bit deranged, and people follow them. And before you know it, they're starting war on Poland and, you know, really everywhere. And it's like, just one person that's always taken, charismatic but off their trolley, and they seem to be all over the place these days. But you know, everybody knocks down, but I'm quite happy just to have somebody who's quite intelligent and normal, even though if he is a bit boring and annoys people. But anyway, I'm not talking politics.
Did you put on any other non-music speakers?
Yeah, well, I put John Otway on here, but he does music, but I put Frank Sidebottom on. Charlie Chuck is another one. I think I did one or two other comedians, but can't remember. A lot of singer-songwriters. At one span I was doing quite a lot of shows here. I didn't put many bands on, but I put people like folky bands, like a Battlefield band. Because they don't have big PAs and they're easier to do. You know, when all these, I put Baby Bird on here and they brought their own PA. That was a nightmare. Like these big stacks side to side. And it's when they had that hit "You're Gorgeous" out, and it was yeah, that was a bit too much. I thought, yeah, you could have skimmed it down a bit, you know. But yeah, I put comedy, or I put a few poets on. I put John Cooper Clarke on here, and that was a story because I booked it with Eric, who used to be in the Fall. Eric Ferry, we used to call him, and it was him. And on the day, I thought Eric hadn't been in touch. I couldn't get hold of him, so I rang John up, and he lives in Cheltenham. And or Chelmsford, I can't remember which one of them. I said, John, you playing City Varieties tonight? And he says, oh, I don't know about it. I said, where are you? He says, I'm at this railway station. I said, but you're here. Eric booked it in, you know, got the contract and everything. He said, oh, well, I've fallen out with Eric. And he was like worried. He says, "Is Eric going to be there?" I said, "No, he isn't. No, he isn't, because I'm not going to be able to contact him. And if he does come here, I'll have a word with him." But I said, "I'll tell you what, get a taxi, get up here as soon as you can." And I had Martin Brammer of, he was in the Fall and the Blue Orchids and all that, and had opening up. And I was saying to Martin, "Can you do another half hour? Can you do this?" So it's like, and the people at the City Varieties said, "Oh, we're going to have to stop this now, he's not here." No, I've got him on, he's coming here, he's nearly here. And it was like, you know, right up to the last minute, we've got him. He walked on with his books and he did a belting show. He just walked straight on and he was funny as hell, and the audience loved him, and it was a great show. Now he's playing arenas now. I think it's just because the Arctic Monkeys did "I Want to Be Yours," one of his early poems, and that was a massive hit. And I think he's got his retirement money now. That one. Yeah, you know, Tom Hingley I put on, you know, Clint Boone and the separate stuff, put in Spirals a few times. I've done seminars with Clint Boone. They're all lovely chaps, they're great chaps. I like it when they're like that. I can't, you know, people ask who's the worst, but the one that I couldn't abide was Courtney Love. You know, I put them on with Hole and Therapy, I forget, Daisy Chainsaw or whatever, and we're on Triple Bill. But she was there, she was in the office, and ringing up Kurt in America. Madonna wants to sign me. Have you got a cigarette? Have you got? I was going bumming cigarettes off people, going through. And it's like, just, I thought, this is the most annoying woman I've come across. And I don't know whether she was on some, I found out later that heroin addicts and whatever. But yeah, I mean, she was possibly one of the most annoying, but you know, the drunks annoy me, but you can deal with them, you know how to deal with them. Just humour them and guide them somewhere. But yeah, any more questions?
Hi John, I work for part of the Leeds tourism team, and I moved down here in 1997, and I've been to a lot of the venues where you have gigs, and I actually met with the general manager at the arena today, and I was telling him I was coming here, and he was like, "Oh, he's the guy who brought Nirvana, he's the guy who did all this." And we were chatting about how, you know, a lot of venues, like independent venues, smaller venues, are really struggling now.
Who's struggling, sorry?
So smaller venues, you know, getting...
I think they are.
Well, I think he was saying there's like so many that in a year that have shut down, and apparently there's this...
No, but the small venues in Leeds now, then they're everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, that wasn't in a negative way. He was saying, you know, about how they want, as a bigger venue, to see the smaller venues coming through and having bands. They're like, you know, we couldn't cope. He says, we wouldn't be open without the Broodnail, without, you know, things like that. And he was like, being really, really positive. And apparently there's a project that they're trying to put through to add some money on to tickets at the arena and other places like that, to try and support, you know, grassroots music. And I was just wondering what you thought about that, and what you thought about other initiatives to try and keep these places going, because it's what we need for the city.
Well, I think there are more venues around Leeds now than there ever were. There were only a few venues when I was promoting. In fact, you know, there were times when I was the only promoter. But, you know, a place like when I was at the Duchess Cockpit opened up, Joseph Swell opened up. They were more city centre things, but now there's loads, you know, Hedgerow House, there's a lot of little bars doing gigs and the whole lot. And, you know, getting money from arenas, they're people who make money. And people ask me, what's the biggest change since you started promoting? And I say the biggest change is booking fees. because there never were booking fees. Even when I was doing here, you know, like 15 years ago, there were no booking fees on tickets. When I used to sell tickets at Jumbo, Crash, whatever, and I used to give them 5% of what they sold, and they were quite happy with that because it's equivalent to what they made on the records. And now, everywhere, like here, there were no booking fees for here. And the tickets for tonight were £10, but I was amazed to find that they're £14 because they put like a £4 booking fee on. And you think, why? You know, it's and all these ticket outlets, ticket agents, they're all billionaires now. Just simply by pressing a button, they're taking like 2, 3, even arena gigs, you know, £8 a ticket. But it shouldn't be like that. If somebody's buying 4 tickets, it's one transaction. So they just get charged for one transaction. You've got an arena gig, you know, and they're charging £8 a ticket.
£10 fine.
At arenas. And what's up, Tony?
Nah, I'm just going to drink, John.
Oh, you've got both? Right. Can you get me one? I'll have a red wine, please. Getting on to this subject, it's like a promoter. I can put on a show, and I need, say, 400 people to break even on it. And the Ticketmaster, whatever, they've put a charge of £2 on each ticket. So I might get to 400, but I need 5. But when I get to 400, all right, I'm losing money. But the people who have put on a booking fee, 400 tickets, £2, they've made 800 quid for just pressing buttons on the computer. And that's what's changed for me. Apart from, like, everybody's promoting out, all they've got to do is put an event up on Facebook and that's it. You know, or maybe design a poster that they can put on X, you know, whatever. And that's what promoting is these days. It's like this gig. They only promoted it through links, you know, on the computer, social media links and things. I said, well, a lot of my audience, some of them don't even go on social media, and some of them, they go in the record shops and pick up flyers. They see posters, and they do it the old way. So I did some posters myself, and I did some flyers myself, which I think helped the crowd. You know, got a decent crowd tonight. You know, I'm quite happy with that. A few have gone after the first bit because they didn't want to ask me any questions because they might not get the answer they want.
That's their bedtime.
But yeah, in answer to your question, I'm too old to start campaigning for those. But I think grassroots venues are being looked after. The local MP for this area is a good lad I've known a long time. He used to come to a lot of gigs. Alex Sobel, he's doing a lot. He's got a lot of influence down in the Houses of Parliament, and he is lobbying for better support for grassroots venues. But they've always been there. If it wasn't the grassroots venues, you wouldn't have had the Beatles or the Searchers or any of the. They all played in Liverpool. In coffee bars, small little clubs, you know, opening late, and they were the grassroots. It's like a swamp that people have got to crawl out of, and some stay in the swamp all their life because they quite like it there, and some climb out and go on to great things and never look back and never come back to the swamp. It's grassroots venues, I think, have always been there, and I think, as I said to begin with, there are more. If you look in the centre, I've given up trying to list them on my site. You know, there's new venues opening up every 2 or 3 weeks. There's Chock's got one now. out in Farnsley that was doing well. The old woman in Farnsley. You know, I think there's a good choice around Leeds at the moment. I forgot to mention the Talk Corks. That was one of my favourite gigs to do. It was great because I got a phone call about Peter Talk from the Monkees and said he wanted a gig at very short notice, about a week's notice. Can you get us somewhere Saturday night? And I rang around, couldn't get anywhere in Leeds. And then I got into Otley. I got to the town hall, or the Open Hall, whatever, in Otley. And I said, you know, I want to put Peter Talk from the Monkees on. And he said, the guy there said, oh, it'd be £200. I said, bloody hell. I said, all right, I'll give it a go, we'll try it. So I got a friend, Dave Pritchard, to supply PA, and we loaded it up. And it was a wreck, you know, the moth-eaten curtains are only like 2 or 3 lights working. But Chris Payne from Corks, he came and did the bar for us. And then afterwards, he invited Peter Talk, his wife, and Dave and me back to Corks for a meal, and it was a lovely meal. Then he showed us this back room, and I thought, oh, this is great. I can put acoustic acts on it. And so I rang up a lot of people who I've known over the years, who were singers, and saying, look, just you turn up with the guitar, and we'll split whatever we take, 80-20. And it worked, and a lot of people came, even Chesney Hawkes and his dad playing at Corks, Mary Wilson and China Crisis, and Mike Peters twice, you know. Well, there was loads of really good nights down there. I love those nights, but unfortunately the lease ran out, and that was it, the end of another venue. But then people just gravitated to the courthouse in Otley. There's always somewhere else. There's always, you know, promoters will always say, well, yeah, I can't do that one. I'll find somewhere else to do it. And that's it always shifts, but I think there'll always be grassroots venues around, unless we have a dictator and it says that you can't do those kind of things. Then it'll all go underground. Anyway, any more questions?
John, I've been watching gigs for like 45 years, and one of the reasons why I'm deaf, and including several gigs that you promoted. So the thing I've noticed, and particularly the last 15, 20 years, and it drives me mad, is mobile phones at gigs when you stood there and you just see a wall of mobile phones.
Yeah.
And what's your opinion on that?
Well, it does my head in, like when I'm going around the union and all that, and there's all the crossings, you see all the students, like, well, I'd say about 80% of them walking across the zebra crossing with the phone in front of their face. They walk everywhere with the phone in front of their face. And they're probably talking to a mate. I saw one once on the train, he was talking very loud. Oh yeah, I had this for lunch, I had a spaghetti and blue, and so-and-so did this and whatever. You know, loudly going there. And he said, anyway, it's coming to the station now. Are you waiting for me? Oh yeah. I'll see you. So they've had all that talk. So when it gets up, what are they going to talk about? It's like, weird, but yeah, it is. But what annoys me at gigs as well is like people pay money to come in, and they have these loud conversations at the back. That gets really annoying. It's like, if you pay to hear somebody, you don't like, if you want a conversation, nobody's got any objections to that, but just go outside and have it. Don't have it while the band's playing or singing or talking. That's an annoying fact. Probably more annoying than mobile phones. But it's really funny because just only like, 15, 20 years ago, every band had a clause in the contract saying no photography, no recording devices, nothing allowed in the hall while the band are playing. They must be taken off people. you know, all very strict things. And not everybody's got photographic equipment, recording devices, the whole lot. You can't say, take the phone off everybody. It's like, you've got to say, all right, we've got to get the ugly side of you, you know, and put it on the internet. It didn't matter in the first place, but it's just like the managers of Precious, they wanted to approve all the photos that went in the press of their ads. But I think it's better now that you get the rollers. I mean, which is why I do like music, because it is getting too smooth now. You've got all these Max Martin girls, you know. And Max Martin was the Swedish studio. I think he died not so long ago. But it's the people who were there. And they do all the backing tracks of people like at the start of Britney Spears and all. But it's all too perfect, too smooth, and it all sounds the same. And whereas live music, people make mistakes. And I like mistakes because that's human. It's human to make mistakes. I don't mind. I just put on the Mekons so that they don't care about mistakes. It was great. They were just playing what they wanted to play and ignore the mistakes. Ignore the little bit of scrub. They just go, and that's what I like about live music. Every band is different every time you see them. It's different dynamic. You know, rather than go to karaoke where you've got the same backing track and somebody singing in front of the backing track. But, you know, that's why I love live music, why I keep on doing it. Anyway, I've said that bit.
John, is there anybody that you've not put on that you really wish you had put on? Been chasing?
Yeah, there's loads. I wish you'd have put on Bob Dylan. You know,
you never answered?
No. Basically, the Leeds Council put on the Leeds Folk Festival, which is great, Temple Newsom. And they put on people like Christy Moore, it was quite a big popular. But I think they spent a lot of money putting drainage in, toilets, all that. And the second year, they trained it bucketed down. And they thought, we're not going to do it again. So I went to them and I found out how much Bob Dylan cost. And I went to the Leeds Council and I said, can we resurrect the Leeds Festival? I said, what it needs, I said, any event is as big as the biggest act. I said, I can get Bob Dylan for 10 grand. And they were, oh. I said, well, he would sell it out and all the other acts would benefit from his audience. And they'd be seeing even smaller acts because people couldn't afford it. Oh no, we can't do that. So I lost that one. I'd love to have done that. I'd love to have done David Bowie, you know. So a couple of times, first time I saw him was these time, all 1969, a program called, a tour called Changes 69, which the headliners were Humble Pie, City Varieties and Peter Franson's band, and there's Save Dance, what his name is, Dave Urban supporting, and another band who went on to be Yes, I think, or something. And the opening act, the compere was Peter Stringfellow, and the opening act was David Bowie with his curly hair doing Ground Control before it was like became a big hit. And I've still got the program for that. That was a memorable show. I saw a few things in town. I saw Bartley James Harley's there, but I couldn't get tickets. So they sat you behind the band. That was a weird experience. So I sat on the seats, the quiet seats behind the band, watching the band play to an audience. A bit like now, isn't it? You know, all gigs are interesting. The one gig I wish I'd have gone to was the Who live at Leeds. I was going to it, but my wife was pregnant at the time with my oldest son, and I couldn't go. And it's one of them great that I wasn't there. But I had a one-to-one with Pete Townsend. You know, I went down to London. He was working as a commissioner as a favour, and he wanted to speak to me. So I went down and had a light lunch with him. And he said, basically what he was after was a book on the Liverpool scene. I said, well, you know, I've got all this stuff about the future. No, I want to do a thing, you know, like this Pete thing. Because I was there in the early days, I used to go to the gigs when I was 15, 16, whatever. And I said, no, well, I'm not having any Leeds now. But anyway, the book never happened, so all types of things down. But it was great to meet one of my musical heroes. And I saw them when Andy Kershaw put them on again, Leeds Uni. I've still got the bag with the interesting bit about the t-shirt and all that was that there was a list of all the bands that played Leeds University, and that must be worth a lot of money now, unless somebody's copied them. But yeah, Bowie, Lou Reed, which is what, going back to the beginning, that I wanted to put him on. But I did put Mo Tucker, the drummer, on, I put John Cale on. I put John Cale on here. I had to get him special piano though. That comes to it. And you know, that's I don't grieve for what I haven't done. I just think, well, yeah, I wasn't able to do that, I'll do somebody else and just go on. I must admit that now I do a lot of tribute bands because it's great, because none of them have egos, they don't have massive riders, and they'll do it on a percentage, they don't want big guarantees. And there are a lot of them are people that I've known who were in bands who played the Duchess, you know, some local, some others, and they're all in bands who are just bubbling under but never quite got above the parapet or whatever. And some of them are better than the original bands. Actually, you know, putting tributes to bands that I've promoted, and I thought, well, they're better than they sounded when they played.
Just radio, certainly are.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, people used to knock me when I started putting tribute song with the Roscoe Marvel, but I had to fill dates and there weren't that many good bands. And I just said, well, they're playing the music that you were listening to when you were a teenager or growing up. It's nostalgia. And as long as they play well and sing it well, you know, you can't be an indie snob about it, you know. The tributes, and some tributes are really good night out. I recommend it, you know, I've got a few tributes coming in. I've got a tribute there in the White House. Most of the tributes to people aren't here anymore, so...
where are they on those ones now?
Bruno, I do it a lot in Bruno, one or two. I've got, on July the 4th, I really recommend the Boston Beeson Street Band, in American Independence Day at the Ivy Centre. They're like an 8-9 piece band with brass and everything. And Dad's the front guy. He's got all the energy. He doesn't look like Bruce, but he's got all the energy and power. And they sell out the Bruno when they play. But they're doing a Southern gig, July the 4th at the Ivy Centre. And a Prince tribute with the singer Joel, who came second in the Voice 2016, to the guy who's now fronting Wet, Wet, Wet. But he's the singer, excellent singer, doing Prince, another 8-piece band, and that's in June the 13th, that's at the Ivy Centre. So yeah, and I really like it, because I know lads, and that's some of the beauty of promoting. You saw on those lists there, bands like from 45 years ago that I'm still doing now. There's like John Otway, you know, I do every year. Kurt Brandon, I do promoting with Spirit of Destiny and with Theatre of Hate, and you know, Devon and Walton, one or two others. But I've known Kurt for that long, and basically, it's lovely to see them. It's like old friends, you know, and it's great, you know, throughout the year, I can meet up with people that I've known for a long, long time, very talented people and very nice and interesting people. And it's great to be working with interesting people, and it's great to see the audience here interested in what I've got to say, because some people aren't.
Did you ever have dreams of being a famous musician yourself?
I never wanted to be, I worked in my interviews, I've always considered myself as a background boy. Like the Wizard of Oz, I think I'm the guy behind the curtains, you know, operating things, making things happen. I've never wanted to be a frontman famous, because I've seen what happens. I've been out with famous people and they don't get any peace. Go to a restaurant, there's always people coming up asking them to sign this, sign that. And you know, I've never craved for fame, I've never wanted it. I like the idea of being the guy in the background, the guy who's making it work. And when a game's finished and people are walking out with smiling faces saying great gig, John, whatever, I feel job done, you know, that's what I enjoy.
Oh, John, can I just ask while I've got a microphone, what's the greatest gig you've ever seen?
What's
the greatest gig you've ever seen?
Yeah.
Who it is? Yeah.
Well,
bands, gig.
There's different gigs, but one of the most amazing gigs I saw was at Queen's Hall, was the Dio tour, and he'd spent something like 4 million since about 20 odd years, maybe 30 years ago. He'd spent 4 million on the tour with the stage and everything. It was in the Queen's Hall. But it was great. He had turrets behind. He had a dragon with laser eyes that flames rose up. And it didn't matter about songs. I was just the same, the pyrotechnics, everything going out, everything happening. It was like one of the most amazing gigs. But you know, I wasn't a massive fan, I just thought, oh, this will be alright. And it was great, very memorable. The greatest gigs, there's a lot of them really that I can't. Every day, you ask me that question, every day it will be a different answer. Because, you know, a lot of gigs stick in my mind has been, you know, top notch, and some stick in my mind as being total rubbish. But you can't write anybody off. I put a band on at the Duchess and Coca-Cola shop, and I played the Duchess. There weren't many in, but it sounded like they were playing, each musician playing different tunes. And it was like, I couldn't, like, I thought, oh, you know, what? They sounded all right on tape and that, but they hadn't quite gelled on stage and got right together. 6 months later, they had a #1 hit, Bring Full of Masher, you know, produced by Fatboy Slim, but it was like, you can't write anybody. I'm rubbish. I told Oasis, I said, you've got a crap name. I said, you know, there's a band in Leeds who play the Workmen's Club, you know, a duo called Oasis. I said, there's a monkey song up the road called Oasis. You know, what are you doing that? I also said to Nirvana, I said, we've got, had an English band, Nirvana had a hit, you know, Rainbow Chaser, you know, in the 70s, and they said, oh, we'll see that. I said, well, I said, they were really good, they had a, you know, a very early concept album, they had 2 or 3 hits out of it, and they said, oh no, it doesn't matter about that. Anyway, they went to the States, and they got sued by the original band, and I think they had to pay out something like 100 or 150 grand. And the original band were laughing because people were buying their original album. Kurt Cobain. So you know, that worked for them. There's a few I've said I've regretted saying change the name. I'm not going to go through them all that, but not that many. I've stopped doing it recently. I only say it to tribute bands. That, oh, it needs a bit rubbish, it needs to be more exciting. But they don't listen. But they still make that money, they still do all right with it. Any more questions? I think they might be wanting me to finish. How am I doing for time? I'm alright. I'm alright for a bit. Any more questions anybody wants to ask?
Courtney Love was your worst person you've ever met.
Pardon?
If Courtney Love was the worst artist you've ever come across, who's been the best?
A lot of them.
Who have you gelled with the most?
A lot of them. You know, I got on really well with Mike Peters, get on really well with Kurt Brandon, and get on really well with Ian McNabb. He's funny. And a lot of the Scouse bands, you know, Eddie and Gary China Crisis, and a lot of the Scouse bands I get on with, some of the Manchester bands, and I just either get on people or not, but there's people I'm pleased to see. I'm always pleased to see John Otway. He's like from the early days, and you know, people from early bands like the Prowlers and the Veins and the Roots and You Slosh and Little Chief and all those people. It's nice sort of bumping into them, meeting up with them. You know, I can't say there is the nicest person, but some people I just like, and they don't have to be non-alcoholics or whatever, but they just have to be interested and good to talk to.
What's the best band that's come out of Leeds?
Pardon?
In your view, what's the best band that's come out of Leeds?
Well, you've got to say the Kaiser Chiefs. But if you're my age, you'd probably say Paul and Barry Ryan or Jeff Christie. You know, they were big bands in the late 60s, early 70s, #1 hits and all that. You know, Paul and Barry Ryan. Nobody ever really mentions them now, but they wrote Eloise and you know, some really big numbers, and they were a lot bigger in Europe than they were in Britain. They've got a tragic story. One spell I was wanting to make a film about, but you know, I just couldn't get the finance together. But the book needs to be written about, and we've got a great story.
Barry's still performing, isn't he?
Pardon?
I think Barry's still performing.
Yeah, but maybe, yeah, I know Paul died, but and he had an accident in the studios while I was there. But yeah, Jeff Christie, you know, I was saying now, he lives not far from me. He had a big hit with Yellow River, you know, and that went all over the world. People forget, you know, like people sometimes bigger than you realise. Like whenever people ask him about the Duchess, the Cranberries, I put them on a couple of times. I put them on the Irish Centre supporting Tanya Donnelly from Throwing Muses with their band Belly, but the Cranberries support. But Dolores Keane became the one of the richest women in Ireland, and they sold more albums worldwide than Oasis. You'd go to Europe, you'd go, you know, on a seafront somewhere, and every cafe bar would be playing the Cranberries. They were like massive. So there's a few British bands, their profile is bigger abroad than it is here. And it sometimes works with American bands, like Bush were massive in America, but I put them on the Duchess. I had an American friend who was a tour manager, John Martin's tour manager, and I came in and said, "You've got Bush playing here?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "They're huge in the Stadium full arenas." I said, "Yeah, but, you know, they're British, yeah, but it's not translated here." Another one was I put on a few times that I really liked, called Blue Rodeo from Canada. They're one of the biggest bands in Canada. And I put them on at the New Roscoe or the Irish Centre, and they get about 100 people in, and like a little bunch of Canadian students who couldn't believe that, oh, it's Blue Rodeo. And they're coming in and saying, "Well, they're there now." I said, if we went to see them in Canada, the security would let us beyond the barrier. We wouldn't, you know, they were like absolutely huge in Canada, but it didn't translate into Britain. It was like, nobody was interested. It's funny, some things are regional.
What did you think to the taxis in general, private taxis?
Bridals. I was waiting for that. It was a leading question to say the bridals are the best. I thought I was going to mention the bridals. I mean, I really like bridals. They have a good attitude, and that's why I put the picture up there. And they were like bubbling up there, and they couldn't quite achieve the greatness that Oasis and whatever else did, but they were an excellent Leeds band. But, you know, we talk success, I suppose the most successful band were Kaiser Chiefs. You know, currently, there's Chock's band, Black Star Liner, they were good in sort of certain areas, they did well. But I can't think of any real superstars to come out of these. You know. Well, yeah, but the wedding present Ukrainians, you know, Dave Cage was from Manchester. There were two Sisters of Mercy. It was only Craig from Leeds. You know, I think Gary was from Hull, and Andy was from down south from the Isle of Ely. That was Stevie Marriott. I put him on loads of times. And he always used to come up, all right, mate, how we doing, mate? How we doing? It's like, and I sort of miss that. He's a great fella. He's a better guitarist than he's given credit for. He's a really good player, because he used to play Packet 3, which is him guitar, doing the old songs and blues songs. Fantastic voice. I think if he'd still been alive, he could be a superstar now. But unfortunately he died maybe nearly 30 years ago, but a long time ago.
What do you listen to at home, John?
Pardon?
What do you put on at home? What do you listen to?
My headphones. What I'm listening to is like Mojo and Cut bring out these CDs of all the new stuff that's coming out, and sometimes they do like rare live footage, like the last Mojo had stuff of Doors live, you know, I used to like the Doors, and they keep me kind of abreast of what the new scene, what is happening on the current scene. But in the compilations they include some older. So I like listening to the CDs from Mojo and Uncut. That's what I listen to a lot. Or I listen to Radio 6, BBC Radio 6, you know, Craig Charles and Mark Riley and all those people. Yeah, I think we're possibly going to have to give it, because... Yeah. That's a funny one, because I put some in Facebook like a good few weeks back. It's like, you know, when I was young in the 50s, we used to see the good old days on, you know, from here, Leonard Sachs, you know, people like Ken Dolan and all. But I thought that was the 50s, and they were playing the music from the 1910s. And I think, well, it's only like 40, 50 years between it. When you go back 50 years from now, you're back to Slade and Bowie and glam rock and all that. It's like, I mean, but the changes between 1910 and the 1950s is a gradual change. But the change between the 1950s and now is like massive. The music splits everywhere, you know. It's, yeah. 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 But the Ripper sorts all that, you know. Just one guy, we're talking about one guy can change. The Ripper, because people were so frightened of going out and girls wouldn't go out. And so they stopped the night buses because girls, nobody's catching them. The girls were either getting taxis or being given lifts. Yeah, I know.
John, it's not a question, it's a thank you.
Oh.
From me personally,
And me.
because you putting on the gigs that you put on opening the Egg Club changed my life. It took my life on a completely different path. And I don't think I'm the only one in here. I think there's a lot of people here.
I want to see Statler and Waldorf. Open the boxes. Yeah. Did you get a good view of the screen? I was like worried about whether you could see what was happening. Are you alright with that? Alright, good stuff. I think we're more or less finished now. I think they want us to go. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming in, for listening to I can do another one here in a couple of years' time when I've done 50 years. I might have I might do just one with the digitised footage from the future analysis, some rare stuff. There's a lot of stuff on it. It was like U2 refused, as I said earlier, they refused that. Soft Cell had made it by then, they refused to have their footage shown, and Psychedelic first, but yeah, it might include some of them.